Hello, I'm Casey.
And I'm Fallon.
And this is
Render the Darkness,
aka the Melting Pot.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so hot in here yet again. We're trying to correct that. We now have an air conditioner. It's just in the very back.
And we have the door shut.
And the door shut. and I was too impatient to come record to let it actually cool down much. So, also, not that I'm a vain person, but just for the record, I'm not bald. Okay, like for where I'm sitting,
that big, yeah.
Yeah, it's the light. See how it moves on my head? It's the way the light sits on my shiny, shiny hair.
Mm.
Just for the record,
it really
is. It really is.
I'm in person. I can see.
Hey,
it really
is. It is. All right. So today is one of our WTF cases. What the fun fact for this episode is, I'm actually going to give us 2 fun facts for this episode, and they're both beer related because that is associated with this case.
So beer related?
Beer.
Oh, beer related.
Related.
Okay.
So I thought it was fitting. So the first fact is the brewing of beer dates as far back as 10,000 BC. Which is crazy because that is a long ass time ago. And fact 2, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington all brewed their own beer.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
And the reason they related to this case is because this case is called the London Beer Flood of 1814.
Beer flood.
Yeah. So I personally had never heard of this case, and it's pretty terrifying that something like this could happen. And it actually has been known to happen multiple times throughout history. So we are going to be specifically talking about this event, but there are other events in history where something like this has happened.
Okay.
So for this case, we're going to be traveling all the way back to 1814, more specifically on October 17th.
Okay.
The London Beer Flood, it happened on a Monday, and it happened in St. Giles, London. The accident took place at Mew & Company's Horseshoe Brewery, and the brewery was famous for its porter. So it was founded during King George III's reign, and more than 100,000 barrels of nectar, which were all dark in color, were produced each year. In 1810, the company, which was located at Oxford Street and I'm going to try to say this correctly, Tottenham Court Road, they installed a 22-foot high wooden fermentation tank to help improve the production of the beer. This held 3,500 barrels worth of brown porter ale, and the tanks were being held together by these really huge rings that were made out of iron. Keep in mind the time frame. However, this iron wasn't always as clad as iron is often known to be. It was fairly common for these rings to slip and sometimes crack, and sometimes even break.
That's no good.
No. Which brings us to the day that would live in London history forever, mostly because of the tragedy that it caused. At around 4:30 p.m., George Crick, who was the storehouse clerk for the brewery, he was inspecting one of the vats that held in it a 10-month-old batch of porter. He noticed that one of the rings had slipped off. So again, he wasn't too immediately concerned because, as I said earlier, this was fairly common. And Crick especially knew that this happened at least a few times a year because he had worked for that company for 17 years up to this point. Never any major problems had happened because of one of these things slipping off, but just as a protocol, he did go ahead and report the ring slipping off to his supervisor. But by this point, with the brewery becoming the 5th largest porter producer in the world. They wanted everything to run smoothly, and they really didn't want any interruptions in the running of the products. And again, this was common, so his boss seemed a little more casual about the news and information than even George was at the time. So much so that when George did tell the boss about the ring slipping, his boss just told him, quote, no harm whatever would ensue, end quote, and instructed George to write a letter to another one of the brewery's employees so that he could fix it later.
Okay.
Now, this lack of concern was despite the fact that the vat, the one that was 22 feet high in the air, not only was it almost completely full, but also the pressure from the fermentation process was steadily building up. Just a little shy of an hour later, so an hour after Crick brought this to his supervisor's attention, and Crick had actually just finished writing his note to the other employee, he heard a massive explosion inside the stateroom, and the vat that the ring had slipped off of, it had completely burst. Now, this vat burst at such a force from the built-up pressure that it broke the valve on a connecting cask. And just real quick, for those that don't know what a cask is, because I didn't, it's the barrel. Anyway, so this cask also held thousands of barrels of beer. And so when that happened, it kind of created this domino effect. So it was like one cask broke after another, releasing more than 320,000 gallons of beer, which brought with it a force that would break the entire 25-foot back wall of the brewery. And keep in mind, that fermenting ale, that was hot. The force of the blast caused the bricks to be thrown on top of houses, and the wall collapsing tragically did kill 14-year-old Eleanor Cooper, who was a servant at the Tavistock Arms pub located on Great Russell Street, which was the street that the wall was facing and the area where the bricks from the wall had flown. She was washing pots in the yard of the pub when she was buried underneath the wall after it collapsed. Not only were the bricks and debris flying, but also, again, over 300 gallons of porter were now racing through the streets, bringing with it a 15-foot high wave of beer. 2 houses were quickly collapsed as a result. One of those houses was the home of Mary Banfield and her daughter Hannah, and this is heartbreaking, but the mother and daughter, who were having tea together at the time, were both tragically swept away in the flood, and they lost their lives. This next set of casualties from this tragic event is even more heart-wrenching somehow, because the next house to collapse, at the time of the collapse, they were actually holding a wake in the basement of that house for 2-year-old John Seville. There were 5 people in attendance. The attendants were John's mother, Anne, Elizabeth Smith, Mary Mulvey, and Mary's 3-year-old son, Thomas Murray, and Catherine Butler. Unfortunately, the force of the beer caused the house to collapse, killing all of them. Others who were in their homes were climbing on top of furniture and kitchen tables and just getting as high off the ground as quickly as they could to avoid drowning in the flood or being hit by debris that was being carried by it. To make matters worse, there weren't any drainage systems in place in the streets at the time because it's 1814, so the beer only had 2 places to go. In the streets and in the homes of St. Giles. Miraculously, all of the workers that were inside the brewery, although they did have to be rescued, somehow they all survived. Okay. The rescuers were in waist-high hot malt liquor, and they were having to shush those who were now gathering around the flood, and trust me, lots of people had gathered. But they were having to shush them so that they could listen for people who were needing help. They were literally digging for anyone under anything they could that might be stuck or trapped or needing rescued. A lot of the people who were gathering, the onlookers, a lot of them were just onlookers, but a fair amount of them were concerned and distraught family members of those affected in the area that the flood was taking place, and they obviously wanted to make sure that their loved ones were okay.
Right.
So although the 8 victims I've mentioned is a high number, the death toll could have been much higher given the severity of speed in which this all happened. Even more tragic, all the victims were either women or children. But despite how fast the flood happened, it would take days for the beer to subside, and some even said months for the smell of beer to go away out of the area. And there were some sources that claimed that among the chaos of the flood, other onlookers were scooping up and drinking the beer. Which, I could see that part. I could see. That seems plausible. It makes sense. But there was also parts of that was claiming that some of them were scooping it up or drinking it so quickly that a couple of people had gotten alcohol poisoning.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't find anything to, confirm or deny that. The only actual deaths that were recorded as a direct result of the flood were the 8 I've already mentioned. So I don't know if anybody died of alcohol poisoning or if that was just an extra note of something that happened because of the flood. But that wouldn't really be because of the flood. That would be because people can be gluttonous sometimes.
Yeah.
And they seized an opportunity too much.
Yeah, free beer, and tried to, that.
Correct.
Yeah. It's possible, yeah.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying there weren't any other sources to really validate that one way or the other.
Right. Gotcha.
So 2 days after the flood, a jury declared the flood an accident, and that was after they were taken to the site of the flood, hearing testimony from the workers at the brewery, especially Crick, and actually viewing the 8 victims' bodies, which, by the way, I did read in one source that some of the family members of the victims had actually put their loved ones' bodies on display for all to see, and that this brought in so many curious speculators that the weight of all of them collapsed the floor of the house the bodies were being shown in, causing them to fall into the basement in waist-high beer.
Oh, gosh.
Again, that's another one. I couldn't really verify that one way or the other, but I did see it in 2 different sources, so do with that information what you will.
I wonder why they would do that, though. Put them on display. Is it to, make a point?
I don't know. I can't imagine it was for any kind of, a profit or anything like that. So, I don't know. Because with that question, the jury's verdict, they ultimately determined the cause of the flood to be, quote, an act of God, end quote, with the jury citing that the victims lost their lives, this is again, quote, casually, accidentally, and by misfortune, end quote.
No.
So I don't know if it's true that some of them put them on display. I don't know if it was to prove a point and to say, hey, our children and our wives lost their lives because of this, and you're going to hold nobody accountable for it, and then you're going to say something as crazy as they died casually, accidentally, and by misfortune.
An act of God? No.
So with that, the brewery was, again, like I said just now, it wasn't held responsible for this incident at all. However, the company did have to come out of pocket about 23,000 pounds due to the damage to the buildings, the lost porter, and the need to replace the vats. But they would actually go on to petition Parliament for assistance, and they would receive that 7,250 pounds, which was just enough assistance to keep the company from having to file for bankruptcy. So, mine is coming out, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not scoffing at their 14,000 pounds they had to come out of pocket.
Yeah.
I'm not scoffing at that because back then, in the 1800s, that was a lot of money. Today, I think that's I don't even know how much. Probably
a lot.
It's a lot. But they really weren't held accountable for this in any way at all.
Yeah.
Because they were immediately allowed to fix the issue and reopen.
Right.
So it's almost like those 8 victims lost their lives and there was no accountability for it. Like the jury was just like, oh, accidents happen, and like that was it.
Yeah.
And not only were they like, oh, accidents happen, also here's a quarter of the money to help you get back on your feet.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was an accident, it still happened on your watch.
Yeah.
So you should still have to pay some kind of restitution of some
like to
kind.
the family, something. Yeah. But anyway, the brewery did reopen soon after, but in 1921, Mew would decide to move their production to one of the other properties they own in the town of Wandsworth, located in South London, which makes me wonder if they weren't just like, the town wasn't like, get out of here, or just really anti the production company still being there, which of course, who wouldn't be? Something like that doesn't happen, and then the company goes back to running, and there aren't people sitting there like, well, what if this happens again? Mm-hmm. Like, who's to guarantee our safety? Like, I can understand people no longer wanting it there after something like this happens. Yeah. I'm not saying that's why they moved it. I don't know. I was not there. But I'm just saying. I wouldn't want it just thrown right back up in my backyard.
Yeah, no.
But in 1922, the brewery in St. Giles was torn down, and the Dominion Theater was built at the site. This incident is said to be what inspired the brewing industry to transition from using wooden barrels and tanks to using concrete vats. So something good did come out of it. I mean, sort of. Because at least they took into account that the wood barrels were not safe.
Yeah.
And they did start to transition to something that would be more stable and sturdy. That would provide more safety.
Right.
For whatever area they were producing in. And the Dominion Theater is actually still up and running to this day. But Mew and Company were liquidated in 1961. And that is my case on the London beer flood of 1814.
That's very interesting. I still think that the company should have been held accountable for all the damage to all of everything, all the people. I know they were held accountable for the damage to the city and to, the things that happened in the factory, but they should have been held accountable for the deaths and all that.
Yeah, I would think so. Like, I feel like throwing the company like right back up showed very little regard for the victims.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But I want to see how much the 23,000 pounds would be today. I'm curious. I should have just put it in the case, but I didn't actually think about it until right at this moment.
Kind of reminds me of the where did it happen? I can't really remember where it happened, but the maple.
Oh, that was Massachusetts.
Oh,
yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So 23,000 pounds in 1814 is the equivalent of 2,340,616 pounds today.
Quite a bit of money back in the day. Well, that's quite a bit of money now, but yeah. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
But still.
So I'm curious how much the 7,250 pounds would be today. I mean, it's still going to balance out to be about a quarter of what they had to come out, but really not that much, actually. 10,176 pounds today, which compared to, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That doesn't make any sense calculation-wise, does it?
Because 23,000 was 2 million, right?
Let's see. 23,000 in 1814 is equivalent in purchasing power to about 2,340,616 today. Okay, so maybe I just looked at the wrong source for the 7,000. Sorry, I realize that we are wasting your time at this point, but my brain is curious and I must know this information. Oh, it didn't flip over. What is happening? All right, anyways. Okay, so that was my case on the London beer flood. I'll look that up later. I'm sorry. You can skip that whole part. I'm sorry. Well, you can we skip that part now that part's over.
Yeah.
I'm hot. All right,
Yes.
that is our case on the London beer flood, and our next case will be coming at you from still Illinois. You still have a true crime in Illinois, right? Illinois will be our case.
It's like,
It'll be
yes.
back into the 50 states here. It'll either be Illinois or Indiana, but I'm pretty sure we still have a case in Illinois.
No, the one I just finished is out of Indiana.
So what true crime Illinois? No, I did the true crime.
Yeah.
Illinois. What true crime did I do out of Illinois? Well, this is terrible.
But yeah, I just did
So we're going to Indiana next.
Yes.
Indiana. And I hope you guys will come see us there. Was it the Grimes sisters? Was that in Illinois?
Maybe. I'll say probably.
I think it might have been the Grimes sisters.
But again, sorry. We appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yes, yes.
And if you like what we do, please like, share,
subscribe. Yeah, do all those fun things.
Say
and yeah, feel free to message us and say hi anytime. Yeah. Grimes sisters out of Illinois. That's what it was. All right, so we'll be moving on to Indiana. And we appreciate your support again. And that's it for us. So bye.